In my past life, I married into the Lin family, a renowned traditional Chinese medicine household, together with my best friend. She married Seth Lin, the eldest son of the Lin family. I married Dean Lin, the youngest son of the Lin family. However, my best friend gave birth to 3 children in a row for Seth Lin, the eldest son, and all 3 are medical prodigies. Yet I only bore the Lin family's youngest son, Dean Lin, a daughter, a fool who couldn't even solve the simplest problem like 1 + 2. Dean Lin, who particularly valued face, felt utterly humiliated. Years later, at a traditional Chinese medicine seminar, I brought my daughter along, but her stuttering call of "Daddy" only drew roaring laughter from the crowd. The humiliated Dean Lin angrily stabbed his daughter to death, then struck me dead with a club. When I opened my eyes again, both Dean Lin and I had been reborn. This time, at the family-arranged marriage event, Dean Lin was the first to take my best friend's hand. "I like you, will you marry me?" The Lin family, a renowned traditional Chinese medicine family, hosted a banquet, inviting medical celebrities and elite families from Jiangcheng to attend. This is an open matchmaking gathering. My family has practiced medicine for 3 generations, but our private hospital recently encountered problems. I attended the banquet hoping to seek the Lin family's assistance, thinking back to my marriage alliance experience in my previous life. My eyes filled with bitterness. The 2 sons of the Lin family stood at the forefront, surrounded by the crowd, radiating confidence and vigor. The 2 socialites nearby couldn't help but whisper to each other, "That youngest son, Dean Lin, has such a great temperament. He seems like a total sweetheart." The eldest son, Seth Lin, is also very handsome, just a bit aloof. You have no idea how cold Seth Lin can be. I heard his medical skills are incredible. But he refuses to treat anyone he doesn't like. Dean Lin is completely different. He's so easygoing. No matter who comes to him for help, he treats every patient with care. I think a husband like him, someone so gentle, would be perfect. But I heard Dean Lin is an illegitimate child. What's the point of talking about illegitimacy now? Wasn't he officially recognized? My best friend Jiang Ting, standing beside me, listened with excitement, tugging at my hand while her eyes remained fixed on Dean Lin in the crowd. When our gazes accidentally met, she blushed and quickly looked away. I couldn't help but reveal a mocking sneer. In my past life, I too was deceived by Dean Lin's facade. My grandfather, father, and brother all studied medicine, and I followed the same path. With my exceptional talent, I even became a renowned golden hand in Jiang City because of my widely recognized talent and beautiful appearance. I was chosen by Dean Lin to be his marriage partner. It was also at that time that I found out my best friend Jiang Ting had a crush on Dean Lin, but that night, she got completely drunk and accidentally ended up in bed with Seth Lin. A month later, she got pregnant and reluctantly married Seth Lin. After the wedding, Dean Lin and I had a wonderful time together. He truly lived up to his reputation, a caring and warm-hearted man. At that time, I was overjoyed to have found a good husband, never imagining it would become the source of my lifelong misery. Shortly after my best friend married Seth Lin, she gave birth to 3 healthy sons in succession. Her father-in-law was so delighted he couldn't stop smiling, praising her as a wonderful daughter-in-law and gifting her 900 million. As for me, I remained unable to conceive. Gradually, Dean Lin changed. He became impatient with me, irritable and explosive, very sensitive to others mentioning that he had no children. He claimed there was something wrong with my body, forcing me to drink countless doses of traditional Chinese medicine and undergo numerous acupuncture sessions. To ensure I focused on preparing for pregnancy, he pressured me to quit my job at the hospital and stay at home. But I am a doctor myself. If I haven't gotten pregnant for so long, do you think I wouldn't have checked my body? The one with health problems is clearly him. For a full decade, I tried countless traditional Chinese medicine remedies, which ruined my health, yet I still couldn't conceive. I couldn't take it anymore and wanted to divorce Dean Lin so he could have children with someone else. He sneered coldly, "I've invested so much effort in you, and you think you can just casually mention divorce with a single sentence? I only chose you as a marriage partner for your medical talent. Did you really think I would have looked at you otherwise? Who knew you'd be so useless? What good is talent if you can't even bear a child? Worthless." We had a huge argument, and I fainted. When I woke up, I found him sitting by my bed with a smile, telling me I was pregnant. He seemed to have returned to normal, showing me warmth and care. After 10 months of pregnancy, I gave birth to a daughter. But the good times didn't last long. My best friend's 3 children officially began studying traditional Chinese medicine and were praised by their teachers and family as medical prodigies. Father-in-law directly announced his retirement, letting Seth Lin take over most of the Lin family's corporate assets. Yet my daughter couldn't even grasp simple arithmetic like 1 plus 2. A slow-witted fool, Dean Lin broke down, yelling at me for being a useless failure who couldn't bear a son. Then kicked me out of the Lin family with nothing but the clothes on my back. I didn't feel wronged. Instead, I breathed a sigh of relief and began living independently with my daughter. At a medical seminar, his daughter stammered and called him dad, drawing teasing laughter from the crowd. Dean Lin flushed red with embarrassment, feeling humiliated. That same day, he stormed into the house and stabbed his daughter to death. "It's this idiot who made me lose face. Die, die, just die." I mustered all my strength to push him away, wanting to carry my daughter to the hospital for emergency treatment. Little did I know, Dean Lin had completely lost his mind, attacking me from behind with a ferocious expression. Before dying, I held the tiny body in my arms tightly, feeling the blood grow cold as I gradually lost consciousness. I never expected to be reborn, let alone return to the day of the banquet. Overwhelming hatred made my fingers tremble as I glared coldly at Dean Lin. Yet I saw him walking straight toward my best friend. A shiver ran through my body as I suddenly realized he had also been reborn. My 2 sons are always buried in their medical studies. They're almost 30 and still unmarried. I can't even hope to hold a grandchild. Old Mr. Lin feigned distress. Everyone understood that today's gathering was a matchmaking banquet for an arranged marriage, and old Mr. Lin was clearly looking to choose a match. The eldest son, Seth Lin, born to old Mr. Lin's former wife, is exceptionally gifted, a renowned miracle-working traditional Chinese medicine doctor in the medical field. The youngest son, Dean Lin, was born to Mr. Lin's current wife. It's said he was an illegitimate child conceived out of wedlock, yet he has an excellent reputation and is widely regarded as a genuinely kind person. In his previous life, Dean Lin had already investigated all the socialites attending the banquet. His medical talent couldn't compare to Seth Lin's, and being pampered, he didn't practice medicine diligently. He wanted to father a clever child to compensate for his shortcomings in medical skills. Thus, he had long planned to choose me as his marriage alliance partner, but in this life, he didn't even glance at me, walking straight to my best friend and, under everyone's astonished gazes, took her hand. "I like you. Will you marry me?" The crowd was stunned, whispering to ask who she was. Although my best friend Cami Jiang's family had some assets, she wasn't actually on the guest list. She likes Dean Lin and begged me to bring her in. At the time, I didn't think much of it because arranged marriages are always between families of equal status. At most, she was just here to join in the fun. Father Lin frowned and asked Dean Lin, "Have you thought it through?" Dean Lin smiled and nodded, saying, "Actually, I've liked Miss Jiang for a long time. I'm taking this opportunity today to confess my feelings and propose to her." She spoke with deep affection, gazing tenderly at her best friend. Overjoyed, her best friend didn't hesitate for a second and eagerly replied, "I'd love to marry you." At that moment, Dean Lin seemed to glance at me unintentionally. The disdain, contempt, and disgust in his eyes nearly overwhelmed me. A chill ran through my body as memories of the fear and hatred before my death in my past life resurfaced. I clenched my fists, my nails digging sharply into my palms, the icy pain jolting my nerves, just as I was on the verge of losing control, ready to lunge at him and slap him hard enough to tear off his smug facade. A warm, large hand grasped my cold wrist. Instinctively, I looked up and met a pair of deep, ink-black eyes. The man before me wore a tailored suit, exuding an aloof aura, yet the corners of his lips curled into a faint smile. "Will you marry me?" The crowd exchanged glances, whispering among themselves about whether the 2 sons of the Lin family were secretly in a relationship. "Everyone knows about the trouble at my family's hospital. To marry into my family, you'd first have to resolve our issues. You haven't gained any benefits yet, but you'd have to fill the hole in my family's finances first. When I was chosen as the Lin family's marriage candidate, no one considered me a competitor. Old Mr. Lin frowned but ultimately said nothing. After all, it was his son getting married, not him. But Dean Lin, standing nearby, darkened his expression. Elder brother, before the wedding, you should still check the health of your marriage partner. Don't end up regretting it later if you find out she can't bear children, wasting all that time. A surge of anger rose in my chest, just about to erupt, when Seth Lin's hand slipped and took hold of mine. His tone was indifferent. Who I marry is none of your concern, little brother. You should worry about your own love life. Besides, I married this person because I like her, not because of her womb. Dean Lin's face stiffened. Was he just mocked for marrying someone solely for their ability to bear children? Dean Lin's mother smiled, speaking to save her son's face. Seth, your younger brother is also concerned about you, but since you've both chosen the partners you like, and they're willing, then pick a date to get married and settle it. Father Lin remained silent, tacitly approving his son's choices. The crowd sighed and made excuses to leave one after another. Dean Lin showed gentle concern for her best friend, but before leaving, she snorted coldly at me. Big brother, this woman may be quite beautiful, but there are plenty of good-looking women out there. Don't act on impulse and ruin the rest of your life. Before long, you'll realize she's all looks and no substance. You'll regret it. When I got home, my parents had already heard the news. The heart that had been tense for months because of the hospital matter finally relaxed. They were actively preparing for the wedding with the Lin family while discussing how to exchange benefits. On the eve of Dean Lin's wedding, my best friend came to see me. Her face was full of happiness, but it turned unnatural the moment she saw me. Tang Yu, I was so stunned by Dean's confession that day, so I didn't speak up for you in time. I really like Dean. He said he would give me the best. She paused, then whispered to me, I heard his brother is very cold-hearted. Seth Lin probably chose to marry you to take over your family's hospital. I think you should think carefully. I looked at Cami Jiang's self-righteous expression, sneering inwardly. Before marriage, Cami Jiang was indeed a good friend of mine. But after marriage, she became a sister-in-law who enjoyed watching me suffer. In my past life, she also said Dean Lin didn't like me and advised me to marry someone who did. While I was being tormented to the point of agony by Dean Lin, he said with a laugh, See, I told you so, but you wouldn't listen. Since you can't bear children, just have your little brother find someone to do it for you. You can raise the child later and spare yourself the suffering. Oh, Cami Jiang, I hope that after experiencing everything from my past life, you can still think this way. Cami Jiang was eagerly anticipating the grand wedding of an elite family, determined to make a spectacular scene, but contrary to her expectations, Dean Lin didn't plan a grand wedding. It could even be described as shabby. He simply booked a few tables at a hotel for close relatives, arranged some flowers, hired an MC, and called it a wedding. This made Cami Jiang so angry that she cried in frustration. However, Dean Lin gently comforted her, saying that his father disliked extravagance and that he would make it up to her with a lavish banquet after they had a child. I couldn't help but laugh when I heard it. Cami Jiang's family was from River City, not even considered upper class. Dean Lin chose her as his marriage partner after his rebirth, simply because in his previous life she had given birth to 3 medical geniuses. Yet, being concerned about face, he felt marrying a wife from such an unequal background was beneath him. So naturally, he refused to hold a grand wedding. Does the Lin family lack the money for a wedding? Only Cami Jiang would believe his nonsense. In my past life, I experienced his sweet talk. Back then, I naively thought he married and treated me well because he truly liked me. Little did I expect that just 3 years of not getting pregnant would change a person so much. By the time of my wedding day, Seth Lin held the ceremony at the Lin family villa, inviting countless elite families from Jiangcheng to attend. Dressed in a white suit, Seth Lin's usually indifferent face was lit up with joy. He wrapped his arm around my waist, and amid the cheers of everyone, lifted my veil and kissed me on the lips. Happy wedding, my wife. My face flushed, and my heart raced faster with each beat. Didn't everyone say Seth Lin was cold and unapproachable? But the man before me didn't seem at all like what others had described. I recall in my past life, he hardly ever appeared together with Cami Jiang. At family banquets, his expression was always cold, and he spent his days studying traditional Chinese medicine, either at the hospital or in his private apartment. Apart from mocking me, Cami Jiang also kept saying Seth Lin was like a work robot. After the wedding, Seth Lin took me to live in an apartment outside. I was surprised. Don't we need to live with your parents in the old family house? In her previous life, Dean Lin had always lived with her in-laws, saying she needed to be filial and not leave the elderly alone. Seth Lin tugged at his tie. No need, how can we have our own private time if we live with them? My face flushed, unsure how to respond. But Seth Lin suddenly scooped me up and carried me into the bedroom. When I woke up again, my aunt told me he had gone on a business trip to treat a patient. I looked at the message he sent on my phone, feeling somewhat lost. It seems he really is a workaholic. People in the circle all say that Cami Jiang is Dean Lin's true love, a model couple. Dean Lin is extremely concerned about Cami Jiang's health, spending lavishly on supplements for her. To defend Cami Jiang, he even argued with his own mother. He is almost completely obedient and has been dubbed a model husband by the media. Somehow, news about me reached the hospital where I work. The day after the wedding, my husband went on a business trip. It's clear I'm just a pawn in this arranged marriage. Who knows, maybe Seth Lin already has someone he truly loves outside, quite possible. What's the use of a glamorous wedding on the surface? These high society arranged marriages are essentially just separate lives under one roof. Colleagues at the hospital whispered behind my back. I don't even know who I've offended, but the media went all out spreading the news that Seth Lin, the heir of the prestigious Lin family of traditional Chinese medicine, was forced to marry a wife he didn't love and has been avoiding coming home since the wedding. And these rumors about me finally erupted completely during a family dinner, after not seeing each other for a year. Cami Jiang didn't seem as great as others had made her out to be. She had gained weight, her eyes were filled with exhaustion, and a few acne spots had appeared on her face. When she saw me, shock and jealousy flashed in her eyes. Yeah, I never expected you to be doing so well on your own without your big brother around. I curled my lips into a smile. He's away on a business trip, eating and drinking well. So naturally, I'm doing fine too. Cami Jiang pursed her lips, then wrapped her arm around Dean Lin's. Her tone tinged with smugness. Dean treats me so well. He couldn't bear to be away on such a long business trip. He even told me not to work so hard and just stay home to enjoy myself. Seeing that I didn't seem to react much, Cami Jiang added, Yeah, why don't you quit your job too? Working at the hospital is so exhausting. Could it be that your husband isn't giving you any money to spend? I laughed. Do I need to rely on a man to support me? Haven't you always known my family is well off? Besides, how do you know my husband isn't giving me money? Cami Jiang was left speechless. Before she could say anything else, Dean Lin, who was nearby, cut in. Seems like you're quite fond of my unreliable big brother. I said indifferently, Of course I love my husband. As soon as the words left my mouth, Dean Lin's face darkened instantly, and he snorted coldly. Cami Jiang was stunned, her eyes darting between me and Dean Lin, trying to pull him away. To everyone's surprise, Dean Lin, who had always been obedient to his wife, forcefully shook off her hand, causing her to lose her balance and fall. Dean Lin's face darkened as he said coldly, Tang Yu, ever since you married my elder brother, you've started looking down on everyone. Do you really think this marriage alliance is unshakable? My brother can solve your family's problems, and I can just as easily create new ones for you. I smirked, not wanting to argue with him any further, and turned to leave. But who would have thought Dean Lin would suddenly go mad and grab my hand? I won't allow you to like someone else. As I struggled, a cold shout came from the doorway. Let her go. If you lay another hand on your sister-in-law, move out of the old house on your own. Seth Lin's tone was icy. Dean Lin involuntarily let go of his hand. Among the Lin family, aside from the imposing father Lin, the most feared was Seth Lin. With exceptional medical talent and relentless dedication, he earned the title of Miracle Doctor at a young age. Countless people sought connections to have him treat their illnesses daily, expanding the Lin family's network significantly. So, no one dared to provoke him, and Dean Lin, being less skilled, naturally didn't dare either. Only after marrying Seth Lin did I understand why Dean Lin had such a good reputation in the eyes of outsiders. Simply because Dean Lin lived in the old family home, outsiders saw him as being on good terms with his genius older brother. When they couldn't get what they wanted from Seth Lin, they turned to Dean Lin instead, taking advantage of his mother and Mr. Lin's doting on their youngest son. Dean Lin had his older brother Seth Lin treat many wealthy and famous individuals for their stubborn illnesses. Thus, the reputation spread that Seth Lin was unapproachable while Dean Lin was amiable. Seth Lin grasped my wrist, glanced at it, and said coldly, "Dean Lin, you're almost 30. Stop clinging to your father like a child who hasn't been weaned. Hone your medical skills properly and don't disgrace the Lin family name." Dean Lin's expression changed. This was clearly telling him to move out of the old residence and no longer use his father's reputation to accept patients. Then he'll have neither extra income nor connections. I'll stay at the old house as long as Dad agrees. Big brother should mind his own business. Better to see a few more patients, otherwise. People might say you look down on others just because of your medical skills. I smiled and said, "Little brother, the number of papers you've published and patients you've seen isn't even a third of my husband's. What grounds do you have to question him, if you're so capable? Stop taking patients yourself and let my husband treat them instead." Dean Lin's face turned livid, his teeth clenched. "Who gave you the right to speak here? How dare you talk to your sister-in-law like that? Did my warning just go in one ear and out the other?" Seth Lin said displeased. "I'll talk to Dad tonight. It's time for you to stand on your own." With that, he pulled me upstairs. He personally cleaned my wrist and applied medicine. He stared for a long moment before muttering in a low voice, "All the patients I've been away treating for a year were found by my younger brother. Their conditions were very rare, so I couldn't resist going. Don't worry, I'll never be away for so long again, nor will I let anyone in the family bully you." I burst out laughing. The aloof figure in others' eyes was actually a secretly affectionate big dog. "Good, now it's up to you to prove yourself." Seth Lin curled the corner of his mouth, pulled me close, and kissed me fiercely. Later, Father Lin truly demanded that Dean Lin move out. No one knows who leaked what happened at the banquet that day. Everyone in the circle learned that the Lin brothers were not particularly close, and that Dean Lin had secretly used Seth Lin's reputation to amass wealth from his patients. Dean Lin lost most of his social connections. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. After spending 2 weeks being lover-dovey with Seth Lin, we returned to our respective work routines. Cami Jiang suddenly showed up at my door in tears. "Yeah, do you have feelings for Dean, but you're already married? Why would you ruin his reputation just because he didn't choose you for the arranged marriage? How could you become so unreasonable?" I looked at her strangely. "How did you become so love-struck? Did that scumbag Dean Lin brainwash you?" In her past life, Cami Jiang only revolved around her child. I never saw her pining desperately for the indifferent Seth Lin. "I think you're just jealous that Dean truly likes me." Yeah, stop playing your little games," Cami Jiang said pityingly. "I know you can't have children, so you're bitter," I sneered. "Well, you're quite impressive then, being able to have children. I don't care who Dean Lin likes. I love Seth Lin. Stay away from me. Since you think your husband is perfect in every way, then live your life well." I glanced at her plump figure and said pointedly, "If there's nothing wrong with your health, don't take random medicine. Be careful not to ruin your body." Cami Jiang's face changed colors repeatedly. Seeing she couldn't win the argument, she stomped her foot and turned to leave, a pair of large hands wrapped around my waist from behind, warm breath brushing against my ear. "So, my wife actually loves me," Seth Lin said with a smile, pressing his entire body against my back. I struggled a bit, but he didn't budge, and I could feel heat rising to my head. "You're so heavy, get off me." Seth Lin wrapped his arms around my waist and sat up, pulling me into his embrace. "My little brother has been spoiled by Dad and his mom, so I gave him a little lesson the other day." He paused, then continued, "Is there something wrong with your health? You look fine to me. But why did Cami Jiang say you can't have children?" My heart tightened. "If I can't have children, then you won't have to endure the pain of childbirth." Seth Lin interrupted me. "I've checked your pulse and didn't find any health issues. But whether you can have children or not, if you're sick, you need to see a doctor." I could tell from his words that he was genuinely concerned about my health. My heart ached, and I couldn't help but bury my head in his chest. After that day, Seth Lin, noticing my interest in traditional Chinese medicine, took me to read many medical books together. He also discussed quite a bit of Western surgical techniques with me. The two focused their energy on medicine and work. The reputation of my golden hands grew increasingly prominent, with people coming from afar every month specifically seeking my expertise. Whether it was Dean Lin intentionally assigning Seth Lin rare cases for a year or not, Seth Lin's medical skills advanced earlier than in his previous life. His mastery of traditional Chinese medicine became so refined that it rivaled veteran practitioners who had been practicing for decades. Father Lin praised him implicitly and explicitly, even expressing his desire to hand over the family business to Seth Lin. Dean Lin grew anxious and made Cami Jiang drink countless folk remedies, hoping to quickly conceive a medically gifted son. Her best friend endured the torment, insisting that Dean Lin loved her and that she must bear him a son. 5 years passed. Seth Lin and I not only advanced further in our medical skills but also grew even more deeply in love. We would argue fiercely over medical disagreements, but privately he would occasionally surprise me. He said, "At work we are both rivals and friends, but in life I am simply your lover." He gave me enough respect and professional freedom, and also made me the happy wife in others' eyes. Perhaps my previous life was too painful, so heaven gave me a chance to start over. I decided to discuss having a child with him. Seth Lin actively cooperated with the checkups and focused on recuperating his health. In my past life, my delayed pregnancy led Dean Lin and his mother to put all the pressure on me. He believed that coming from a family of traditional Chinese medicine practitioners, his body couldn't possibly have issues, so the inability to conceive must have been due to my physical condition. I insisted on going for the checkup with him, and the results showed that there was indeed a problem with my health. While his results were normal, he accompanied me to several hospitals, but the outcomes were all the same, physically and mentally exhausted. I felt guilty toward him and obediently followed his advice to recuperate. I endured acupuncture and medication, persisting for 10 years. When Dean Lin forced me to leave with nothing but my daughter, I unexpectedly discovered his real medical report. Turns out, he was the one with serious issues all along. His genetic defects made it nearly impossible for his sperm to survive, and even if a pregnancy occurred, the child would be unhealthy. For 10 years, I had been living under his deception. My body has long been in perfect condition. Just wait and see. Do you think just because Cami Jiang is considered to have a fertile constitution, she can give birth to a healthy child? I sneered. Don't get your hopes up for nothing. When Seth Lin and I were trying to conceive, Cami Jiang's body became increasingly deformed. Seeing the diagnosis report in my hand, her weary face broke into a faint, happy smile. I knew you still cared about whether you could have children. Hey, you've endured so many injections and taken so much medicine over the years, haven't you? My advice to you is, if you can't conceive, just let your husband have a child with someone else. That way, you won't suffer and still get to happily hold a baby. I gave her a once-over. When they first got married, Dean Lin treated her extremely well, decking her out in luxury brands. Now she was wearing budget clothes, and her bag was from a few seasons ago. Seeming to notice my gaze, Cami Jiang stammered, "What are you looking at?" "My Dean says budget clothes are better for your health." Less irritating, I smiled and said, "As long as you're happy, Cami Jiang. If you can't have children, you should be generous and divorce him so he can have kids with someone else." With that, I turned and walked away. Behind me, Cami Jiang was hopping mad. But not long after, Cami Jiang finally got pregnant. Dean Lin was overjoyed and took Cami Jiang out for another shopping spree. He declared that if she gave birth to a son, he would gift Cami Jiang a villa. Dean Lin's father and mother also showed their support by transferring a sum of money to Cami Jiang, telling everyone they were about to welcome a grandson. Cami Jiang, her spirits lifted after 5 years of gloom, was brimming with confidence and deliberately waited for me after work to share the news. "Yeah, our Lin family isn't short of the money you earn from work. I suggest you quit and focus on giving birth to a son for your elder brother. Otherwise, just as Dean said, who knows when he might divorce you one day." Cami Jiang, with her barely noticeable baby bump, strutted around arrogantly. I smiled and said, "If you give birth to a child that doesn't meet Dean Lin's expectations, he really will divorce you." Several years passed, and Cami Jiang truly came to know what kind of person Dean Lin was. Her face turned pale with panic as she snapped sharply, You're just jealous of me. Even if I gave birth to a daughter this time, I can definitely have a son next time, unlike you, who has no hope of having your own child. How do you know I don't? You believe whatever Dean Lin says. Don't be fooled and still help count the money for them, I sneered. Perhaps once people's own interests are at stake, rifts begin to form. No matter how close Cami Jiang and I were before, once we got married, the conflicts of interest in our little family made it impossible to stay that way. Dean Lin hurried over, gently concerned about Cami Jiang's well-being. He seemed to have transformed back into the doting husband he was during their newlywed days. Cami Jiang buried herself in his arms, crying and saying, "I'm jealous of her." Dean Lin glared at me angrily. "Tang Yu, even if you're dissatisfied with me, don't even think about harming Cami." Over the past few years, he had noticed the changes in me and seemed convinced that I had also been reborn. My expression remained calm. "I couldn't care less if you all die. Please don't come looking for me again, okay?" Seth Lin came to pick me up from work, walking over from a distance. Noticing the tense atmosphere, he was the first to put his arm around me and coldly glared at Cami Jiang. "Stop bothering your sister-in-law all the time." Cami Jiang shrank her neck and didn't dare to speak. Dean Lin's face darkened. "Big brother, are you defending Tang Yu without even asking for the reason? She's my wife. Who else should I defend if not her? Even if your sister-in-law is wrong, so what, if you bother her again? Don't even think about working in Jiangcheng anymore," Seth Lin said as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Now, Father Lin has almost delegated all authority to Seth Lin, who indeed has the power to transfer Dean Lin from Jiangcheng Hospital to another city. Dean Lin swallowed his pride and left. After more than half a year of calm, Cami Jiang's belly grew larger and larger. Meanwhile, the baby of my present life quietly arrived. This time, he was born out of his parents' love, not as a tool for power struggles. Upon hearing the news, Cami Jiang called to congratulate me. "Yeah, you say you don't care. But you're actually quite determined. You've worked hard these years, but Dean told me you might not be able to fully recover. Even if you conceive and give birth, the child would most likely be abnormal." On the phone, her voice was filled with sympathy. Dean Lin seemed to be by her side too, sneering as he said, "No matter what condition sister-in-law is in, Big Brother will love her unconditionally. I think Dean Lin is out of his mind, since he's been reborn. Doesn't he know whose fault it is if an unhealthy child is born?" Soon, the day came for Cami Jiang to give birth. Dean Lin had arranged his VIP ward in advance and had the best obstetrician in the hospital deliver Cami Jiang's baby. Father Lin made a special trip to the hospital. Followed by a large group of Lin family relatives, everyone eagerly awaited the arrival of Father Lin's grandchild. Father Lin grinned from ear to ear and gave Dean Lin a hearty pat on the shoulder. "Well done, finally. I get to hold my grandson." Dean Lin couldn't contain his joy, but when he turned and saw me, he let out a cold sneer. I ignored him. Finally, the nurse came out holding a swaddled bundle. "Congratulations, it's a boy." Father Lin laughed heartily, saying he wanted to throw a grand 100-day celebration for his grandson. Dean Lin was overjoyed, his hands trembling as he reached out to take the child, yet he struggled to contain his excitement and asked, Is the baby healthy? Has everything been checked?" The obstetrician came out and had the nurse take the baby for examination. Dean Lin's face stiffened upon hearing this, his expression turning somewhat unnatural. Father Lin, however, urged them to finish the examination and let him hold his grandson. Unexpectedly, after the examination, the doctor delivered shocking news. The child shows delayed responses. With abnormal cerebellum development, it means the child might be mentally disabled. The joy came to an abrupt halt. Father Lin's smile froze on his face, then slowly faded. Dean Lin stood there dumbfounded, muttering to himself, "Why, I clearly chose a different person this time. Impossible," he roared, his face twisted in fury. How could this be abnormal? Was it because Cami Jiang didn't take care of her body, or because she failed to protect the child, that the baby was born like this? Unfortunately, the doctor shattered his delusion. The child has a genetic defect. "You're lying. It's all Cami Jiang's fault for not protecting the baby." Dean Lin screamed hysterically. "How could this retard be my child? Throw him out, send him to an orphanage." Cami Jiang, still weak from childbirth, rushed out. "Dean Lin, are you out of your mind? He's your son. she stood in front of her child, arms spread wide, refusing to let Dean Lin take him away. How many pills did I swallow? How many injections did I endure to bring him into this world? It was you who always wanted a son, and now that he's here, you despise him for being slow and want to abandon him. Dean Lin, you're a monster. Tears streamed down Cami Jiang's face, her gaze filled with hatred. I lowered my eyes, my heart filled with mixed emotions. In my past life, I gave birth to a daughter, but Dean Lin didn't even glance at her. So, he never realized there was something unusual about our daughter. It wasn't until our daughter turned 1 that he finally noticed. He then shouted and demanded to send her away, saying he couldn't bear the shame. In the end, Father Lin stopped his youngest son's absurd behavior. Dean Lin was depressed for several months, too ashamed to appear at family gatherings. He also refused to visit his son, claiming he had no such mentally challenged child. While Cami Jiang was still recovering from childbirth and nursing their baby, he was already thinking about getting her pregnant again, forcing Cami Jiang to take injections and medication again, saying that this time she would give birth, and next time she would surely have a healthy son. Mr. Lin scolded him several times, but he still went his own way. Cami Jiang seemed willing to cooperate with him. Soon after, I gave birth to a healthy daughter, the moment the doctor said she was healthy. I burst into tears. Seth Lin wiped away my tears with heartache, holding the child to comfort me. You've worked hard, are you? I'll be a good father. He carefully learned how to hold the baby and brought his company work to the hospital room. In recent years, he has focused on the company, occasionally checking on patients with difficult-to-treat conditions. Now I'm concentrating on recuperating my health. Childbirth takes a heavy toll on the mother's body. Having 1 daughter is enough for us, he said to me in a consultative tone. My heart warmed when I heard that he had waited outside the delivery room, his legs too weak to move from exhaustion. I thought about it. These past few years, he must have poured all his energy into our daughter. I smiled and replied, "Okay, Seth, why are you so good to me? It feels like our marriage isn't arranged at all. More like we fell in love and married by choice." Seth Lin's ears turned red, and he coughed awkwardly. "I've been following you for a long time. Medicine is universal, and I think your Western medicine skills are impressive." I secretly chuckled to myself. So it was someone with a crush on me. Seth Lin and I turned into doting parents, completely immersed in the joys of raising our child. Unexpectedly, news came from Cami Jiang. Less than 5 months after her postpartum recovery, Cami Jiang was pregnant again. Despite all precautions, she still had a miscarriage. Dean Lin scolded her harshly for being useless, demanding she quickly recover her health and ensure the birth of a medically gifted son, completely disregarding her physical condition. To reassure her while she prepared for pregnancy, he secretly abandoned their mentally disabled son at an orphanage. Cami Jiang was furious. At the hospital, she had a huge argument with him, yelling in front of medical staff and other patients' families that he was the problem. Dean Lin, it's clearly you who's the issue. You can't produce a healthy son, yet you blame everything on me. You coward, faking medical reports to deceive me into thinking your body was normal, claiming I was the abnormal one. Clearly, it's your defective genes that make it hard to get a woman pregnant, and even if you do, the child would be mentally disabled. I've had enough of your madness. Divorce. The news spread like wildfire, going viral online and topping the trending searches. Mr. Lin cursed loudly, scrambling to clean up his son's mess. Then they made the decision for Cami Jiang, gave her compensation, and let her leave with her son after the divorce. Dean Lin's reputation was ruined, and no one paid attention to his attempts to arrange another marriage alliance. He found a girlfriend and got married, but nearly caused her death and was sued in court. Father Lin was physically and mentally exhausted. Dean Lin's mother instantly aged 10 years, her usually well-maintained, aristocratic demeanor gone. Though she was over a decade younger than Dean Lin's father, she now looked older than him. Dean Lin ultimately didn't go to prison. He was diagnosed as mentally ill and sent to a psychiatric hospital, muttering to himself, "I've started over. I can definitely give birth to a genius son this time." Stepping out of the courtroom, Cami Jiang stood outside, holding her son. With a complicated look in her eyes, she approached me and whispered, "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have competed with you." I smiled and walked past her, The friendship between you and me had already vanished in our past lives. In this lifetime, why would I care about how you're doing? To me, you're already just a passerby. Years later, my daughter gradually grew up. Teachers and family relatives all praised her as a medical genius. As a mother, I know very well that my daughter is indeed smart, but without the patient guidance of parents, she wouldn't have learned so quickly. As the only granddaughter of the Lin family, she has also been adored and pursued while growing up.